prevailing political environment throughout the country was tense, hostile, and volatile, as it has been characterized by an electoral campaign marred by high levels of intimidation, violence, displacement of people, abductions, and loss of life. The mission observed traces of intimidation and violence in all provinces it visited. Houses burnt down, people assaulted and sustained serious injuries. Violence disrupted normal life of ordinary Zimbabweans and led to internal displacement of people. The mission visited various locations of the evicted and displaced. A number of cases of abduction, some of which resulted in deaths, were reported.
The press, like shitting on the floor.
Hate speech, incitement of violence, and war rhetoric instilled fear and trepidation amongst voters. Statements made by esteemed leaders in Zimbabwe make it difficult to dismiss claims of state-sponsored violence, and it is highly regrettable. 3. Restrictions on the fundamental civil and political rights, such as freedom of assembly and freedom of movement. The mission was able to attend star rallies organized by the presidential candidate of ZANU-PF. However, it noted with grave concern that the MDC presidential candidate was not accorded the opportunity to hold rallies. The mission was disturbed by the numerous arrests that the MDC presidential candidate was subjected to. Such a move is inconsistent with a free-flowing electoral process. Politicization of security forces led to lack of impartiality and loss of confidence in the voting process. Overall, the mission noted that the leadership of the security forces have not changed their position of overt support to the ruling party, despite calls following the March harmonized elections. The discriminatory treatment in granting permission for the holding of campaign rallies, reluctance to arrest alleged ZANU-PF aligned individuals perpetrating violence is cause for concern. The mission was dismayed by uniformed police officers on duty wearing the ruling party regalia. 10. The independence and impartiality of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is rendered questionable. The role of ZEC in this particular election has been more wanting than the previous election. Its deafening silence was alarming and created a perception of a sequestrated body. The voting day was fairly quiet. Voters proceeded to cast their ballots in an orderly manner. Generally, voter turnout was relatively low. It is unclear if some voters heeded the call to boycott elections or it was mere voter apathy. It is surprising, though, that the MTC presidential candidate who withdrew from the runoff was still voted for by a significant number of voters. In many polling stations visited by our mission, it was noted that certain male-dominated groups intercepted voters and gave them pieces of paper on which they were required to write the serial number of their ballots after voting. An unusually high percentage of spoiled ballots were recorded in the polling stations where our mission observed the counting process. Unpalatable messages were written on many of those spoiled ballots.